Hi all, it's Dave Giles here for the next lesson of Cambridge International Education IGCSE Physics P2 Thermal Physics, and today we are looking at convection. And today I want to explain the process of convection in liquids and gases. So a little bit of context for today's lesson, some places where you might see convection if you're in a colder country. I'm here in Malaysia now, so this isn't really applicable, but you might see convection used in a radiator like this. Also, convection is used with these lanterns, which are traditionally used times such as Chinese New Year. So I will demonstrate convection here in the classroom. This is a tube full of water, and I've got a Bunsen burner just off screen there. And I'm going to put some food dye in here, some red food dye. Sometimes this is done with crystals of potassium permanganate, which is purple. But I'm using red food dye today. And I'm going to drop it in. And you'll see that the food dye starts to just spread out evenly. And then I start to heat one end. So you can see the food dye is dropping down both sides. And then, because I'm heating this end up, the food dye starts to rise, goes back up, and it's all going in this direction. That's due to convection. Now, hopefully by the end of the lesson, you will be able to actually describe why that happens. So convection occurs in fluids. So first question is, what is a fluid? So it's a substance which flows. So they are gases and liquids. And we're going to look at what density is. So it's the amount of a substance in an area. Okay. So that is from previous learning back in P1. So density is the amount of substance in an area. And you can take some oil and water. Water's got a bit of food coloring in by the looks of it, just to demonstrate a little bit better. And you can see the oil is on top. So the reason that happens is the oil is less dense than water. So it has a lower weight per unit volume, and it is on the top, and the more dense substance, the water goes to the bottom. You can demonstrate it here. So which of these is the most dense? It's the one at the bottom, so it's honey. How do we know? I'll just answer that. Honey has close together particles, so they fall to the bottom. So that's some of the keywords we're going to be using in today's lesson. Now, here is a cold gas. When the gas is heated, the particles start to move around. This causes the gas to expand and become less dense. Since it's less dense, it will rise. So you can see here, we've got the same number of particles, but they're more spread out. So if you look inside this square here, or say rectangle, you can see in the same size rectangle in the second screen, there are less particles. So the particles have moved around and the same volume will now be lighter. So it'll have less weight or less mass than before. So when a fluid is heated, the particles rise. This is because heat gives the particles energy. The kinetic energy causes the fluid to become less dense, like this. Because the particles are less dense, they rise. But then, when they rise, they're no longer receiving the heat. So they lose energy. And because the particles have lost energy, they condense and become closer together. This caused the particles to fall back to Earth, or where the heat source was. The heat source at the bottom then caused the particles to rise back up, which is how a heater works like this. Particles come into the bottom here, rise, because they've gained energy, and then expand. So be careful, not the particles expand, but the space between the particles expands. This place is probably very clear. So the space between the particles expands, then they lose energy, they condense, they become heavier than the particles below them, so they fall back down, and the cycle starts again, which is where the term convection, where we sometimes use the term convection currents. So what happens to the density of the particles after they've reached the top of the pan, and why? Well, when they get to the top, that's when they are the least densely packed, or the space between them, and then they've lost energy, condensed, and fallen back down. So here is a little task for you. This is the stages of convection, and just see if you can put them in the right order. Give you a few seconds to think about it, pause it, then I'll go through it. So first up, air is heated, giving the particles energy. Heat energy is converted into kinetic energy. Because the particles have more kinetic energy, they spread out, so become less dense. This causes the particles to start to rise. As the particles rise, the distance between them keeps increasing, so they become less dense. At the top, the particles have the most energy, so are spread out. So here, after this, the particles lose energy, condense, and fall back down to the heat source. So they are stages of convection. Some little applications here is a water tank. You can see there is, it's basically used to heat water in a household. You always have to have this bit at the bottom because remember, it heats up the water above. And a refrigerator. Now, a refrigerator or an aircon acts the opposite way to, say, a heater. You have cool air at the top, which then, so it starts off cool and then drops and then gains energy and rises back up and loses energy through this compartment here. Convection is also used in breezers, so that's why the air by the by the ocean you get convection current, so it can be quite windy there and be quite cool. So in a kettle, similar to what we've as what we've looked at previously. Let's see what's happening here. Particles gain energy, expand, and then fall back down. This is called a convection current. Last place to show you where we use them is a lava lamp. So basically, there's little balls here, or these little liquid sections. They gain energy, rise, and fall back down. Okay, some very quick convection questions there. So, which two states of matter can be described as a fluid? Liquid and gas. What happens to the density of the fluid when it is heated? Decreases. Why does the density of the fluid change when it is heated? Particles gain energy and spread out. If you pour 3 liquids of different densities into a glass, which one will stay on the top? The least dense. With a kettle, what happens to the hot water when it reaches the top of the kettle before it's boiled? Loses energy, condenses, and falls back down. And then why would a kettle with a heating element on the top not work? Convection only heats up fluids above the heat source. And now some multiple choice paper 2 exam questions. The heater is switched on. What happens to the liquid at X? So it's going to gain energy. It'll become less dense and it will rise. So it's B. MCQ question 2. So this here is a refrigerator. When a refrigerator is cooled, so you switch it on for the first time, the air surrounding the ice box is cooled. What happens to the density of the air and to its position inside the refrigerator? The density, what happens to the density of this air and to its position inside the refrigerator? The density will increase because it's cooled down, it'll lose some energy, and position in the air, it'll start to sink. So the answer is C. Last multiple choice one. Here, the air in a room is heated by a heater. The diagram shows the circulation of the air in the room. Which statement about the air is correct? It's that the air expands and becomes less dense. Okay, so the next lesson is on infrared. I will upload it soon and put a link down in the description below. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you later.